over Hello out there, I'm the oldest nerd, and in season or series 11 of Doctor Who, we're wondering just what it was that Chibnall was trying to do. What we have found in this series of Doctor Who is that most of the fans, most of the long-term viewers of Doctor Who, sometimes going all the way back to William Hartnell, and certainly those who have gone back as far as, say, David Tennant or even Christopher Eccleston, have found this series to be disturbingly different in badly written scripts or the politically leaning scripts, the plots that are minimal, the shows that would have been as good with or without the Doctor being part of it. The fact of the matter is that the Doctor has not been the most important character in these series, and that's disquieting. It's also confusing. So we're going to try to break this down if we can and figure out just what he was trying to do, because I don't think that he's a stupid man. We have seen his success in Broadchurch. We have seen Jodie Whittaker's acting ability in Broadchurch. We have seen a brilliant show there, but somehow less so with Doctor Who. So why should that be? First of all, I don't think that anybody sets out in making a bad movie or a bad television series. Sometimes it comes out that way, but it's through no intention to begin with. I think what Chibnall was trying to do was to find a new audience. And the problem with finding a new audience is that you can often erode your existing fan base in doing so. And we've seen a lot of that online, in forums, in Rotten Tomatoes viewer responses. We see much lower numbers coming from viewer satisfaction in these areas than we have in critic satisfaction. And as we know, critics are looking for different things than fans are. So here is how it breaks down. Basically, Chibnall's approach has caused the numbers, at least for the moment, to go up over previous series. It's beaten out Capaldi's era. It has beaten out Matt Smith's era. It has beaten out some of the later part of David Tennant's era. His fourth season, I believe, with Catherine Tate had the highest numbers, at least in Britain, for the series since the reboot started with Christopher Eccleston. So as far as the numbers are going, the BBC is very happy about it. They really couldn't care what the content is, I don't think, except for the fact that it is bringing in the numbers, and they can say, look, here's the numbers. Maybe that's all that Chibnall's going for as well, but I kind of doubt that. Creative people generally are not as concerned about the statistics as the people who are running the company. So what is he doing? Well, we know, first of all, that he wants to be kind of the anti-Moffat. And we know the things that Moffat was doing. First of all, he had great big plots. The world is going to come to an end if the Doctor doesn't do something. The universe is going to implode upon itself. Gallifrey is going to go away. The Daleks are going to take over the universe. These kind of things are huge, and the Doctor comes in as almost a superhero in order to deal with these situations. Plus, another Moffat type of story is a puzzle in which the Doctor has to solve a number of things in order to get to what he's looking for. And we vicariously go along seeing if we can figure out what's going on by the time it gets to the end. It's always been entertaining for me for these kind of episodes, as it turns out. And the third thing that Chibnall and Russell T Davies have done as well is a romantic element. This is something that Christopher Eccleston was not comfortable with, and the reason that he left after the first season was that he didn't really like the romantic element. He didn't want to do the comedy element in it, which were things that Davies and Moffat later wanted. But the romantic element, which was very much with Rose Tyler in the early Tennant episodes especially, and a little bit of the Amy Pond character in the early Matt Smith series, gives an idea of this Doctor as leading man heartthrob. I don't much care about that, but it was certainly a part of the story. And I think what Chibnall came in doing, saying, I don't want the Doctor to be a superhero. I don't want the Doctor to be a romantic interest. I don't want him to be bigger than life. I would like him to have certain skills, or her at this point, to have certain skills and to be able to travel around in time. But we want to tell the story about something else. We want to focus perhaps on the history or perhaps on another character, which is what brings me to what my theory is. I think this show is about Graham. I don't think it's about the Doctor at all. Why would they not write stories about the Doctor in a show called Doctor Who? Maybe it's just because they wanted the Doctor to be kind of a constant, and they wanted to take one of their characters and make it his journey. It would explain a number of things, and let me follow me on this. First of all, Graham is the most popular character on the series as it is, and perhaps that was intended from the beginning. He is someone everybody can identify with. The Doctor's assistants have often been people who take the place of the viewer, and so perhaps a lot of people can identify with Graham having a loss. It's a hard thing to get over. And he travels with the Doctor to try to run away from the reality of this loss, and also tries to reconnect with his foster son, Ryan. And Ryan, of course, is not all that interested in connecting with him. He's feeling loss as well, although we don't see really as much of the emotion on his side on that. But mostly, Ryan is someone that reacts to Graham. And Yaz is just someone that Ryan can talk to about personal matters that don't deal with Graham. And so Yaz has been very underused, and perhaps on purpose. So if this is about Graham, the Doctor and the TARDIS become a background, and the TARDIS is another thing that's been described as being very minimalist. I always thought that the TARDIS in the late Matt Smith and Olive Capaldi was a little too complex, but at the same time, I find Jodie Whittaker's TARDIS to be way too simplistic. It's just kind of a background with a centerpiece in it with these crystals and kind of screens. And except for the entryway, I find very little interest in the TARDIS at all. So I don't think that they really intended that to be as big a character as the TARDIS was in the Moffat era. So if this story is indeed, this series is indeed just Graham working his way through his loss of grace, which they've shown in so many episodes in one way or other, and finally, if in the first episode, let's take it, the first episode, he loses grace. In the last episode, he has finally come to terms with her passing, and has come to terms with Ryan, who now accepts him. So this has very much been Graham's story. That's why there have been very few threatening villains. This is why there's been no story arc as such. There is why there have been no traditional villains. It's all been a personal story about Graham. Now, why? I don't know. This is something that we might be able to discuss further later on. Perhaps this is a way to distance the Doctor from previous series in which that would be a way of setting up everything else and then letting her take on a unique personality in the next series. I just don't know why they would do that, because they've never worried about doing that before. They come in with a new Doctor, they establish pretty quickly what the new Doctor's personality is going to be, and they move on. Why they would go through such a transitional season, I don't understand. But perhaps you have some ideas on it. If you do, I'd like to hear what you have to think in the comments below. Thank you so much. Please remember to subscribe. I very much enjoy seeing your written comments as well. Please do that. So until next time, and next week we're going to be talking about earlier series in the Doctor Who reboot. I have an idea about where we've come from Eccleston to Capaldi, and perhaps that might be of interest to you. I hope you'll tune in next week for that. In the meantime, don't go far.